This is an open meeting. Right around the corner as you walk in is the actual Open Meeting Act. If you would, we'd ask that you stand with us for just a moment of silence, and as well, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll continue with roll call.
Granquist,
Here.
Lange,
Here.
Merrill,
Here.
Clausen,
I'm here.
Murin, Moaning,
Here.
Faust.
Here.
File.
Here.
All right, and under action, if I could have approval of the consent agenda provided you.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
A motion with a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative.
All right, and approval of that full agenda as presented you.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Motion with a second to approve the full agenda. Again, please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative.
Okay, that takes us to public hearing. The first would be a public hearing to comply with the provisions of the state statute 18-1755 to acquire property at 708 McKinley Avenue. I'm going to open this hearing and look for discussion here. You talking to it, Shane?
Yes, Your Honor. Mayor and Council, this is a ongoing purchase of a piece of property that Mayor and Council set a goal to purchase. It became on the market a couple years ago, and we've been in negotiations and contact with the owners of the property. This piece of property is along McKinley Avenue and Tazuka Park, and it's another parcel that would blend well into Tazuka Park. It's one of the goals that the Mayor and Council set a couple years ago, and gave me my marching orders to go and try to negotiate a price on this property, which we have done. The property is with RS Properties, is the holding company, LLC, that owns this property, and we began at a higher price that was negotiated down to $164,000. If you look in your packet, you'll see that there is an appraisal of this property was done and completed as per statute requirement, and the appraisal came back at $143,000. Did all the best I could do with my negotiation skills and got this an agreement in front of you to purchase this property for $164,000. Again, it was a goal that you set, and it's in front of you tonight for consideration. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Shane, were those dollars in this year's budget? Did we have a placeholder in there for that?
Yes, we did.
I thought we did. Thank you.
Any other questions for Shane, Council? This is group, a public hearing. Is there anyone else that has questions, may want to come forward and speak to it? I see no one. So with that, I'm going to close this hearing and ask for consideration of approval of a real estate purchase agreement between the city and RS Resources LLC, providing the city's purchase of property at 708 McKinley Avenue for the purchase price of $164,000.
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Second.
I have a motion with a second. Any further discussion at all? If not, roll call, Beth. Please vote. I'm sorry.
All council members voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Okay. Next is a public hearing regarding the OCT Pipe LLC redevelopment plan. Again, I will open this hearing, and I will look to Courtney to give us explanation.
Mayor and Council, Courtney Dentlinger, Director of Economic Development for the city. We have in front of you this evening a redevelopment plan from OCT Pipe LLC. This redevelopment plan has been approved by the Planning Commission and by the Community Development Agency. It was modified this evening by the Community Development Agency to incorporate a revised cost estimate schedule, Exhibit F. This is for the development that is planned just, Dennis has a map up for you now, just south of Eisenhower Avenue and just to the west of Victory Road. It's bordered by Nebraska Central Railroad on the west side of the property and by Magnet Drive on the south. It's approximately 102.5 acres. OCT is planning to build an approximately 1 million square foot facility on this property. They would employ 180 people with an annual payroll estimated at $13 million. The entire project will come in excess of $125 million. They've indicated that TIF is necessary in order for this project to be economically feasible to offset eligible costs, including infrastructure to the site. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have about the redevelopment plan. And Darrell Nauman with Heirs and Heirs is also here in the audience this evening. They're the general contractor for OCT Pipe. He would also be available for any questions that you might have.
Okay, before she sits down, council, any questions at all for her? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Courtney. As this is a public hearing, is there anyone that wants to come and speak to this, may have questions of?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I'm Bill Mowinkle, the administrator of ESU 8, and we have a school on Eisenhower, and I'm certainly not here to stop development. I'm here to support it, but Courtney brought up infrastructure, and that's where my concern lies. With the coming of the fertilizer plant on Eisenhower and First, and now this facility on Eisenhower, if you Google how to get there, it takes you down, off of 281, it takes you down Benjamin Avenue and First Street out to these two sites. Now, I was out there tonight, and one of the trucks that took the heavy equipment out there that's moving dirt already went off of the road and into the ditch on Eisenhower because the infrastructure isn't there to support this kind of equipment that's out there. And our concern from a school is, if there's an accident or someone runs off the road out there, how do we get emergency response vehicles to our school for our kids? We have a school out there with 20-plus high-needs students, some of which have medical, emotional, and physical ailments, and we have to get emergency response vehicles out there periodically. And if there is a problem on First and/or Eisenhower, we can't get there because of the bridge that is on the west edge of Eisenhower will not allow emergency response vehicles. So our concern is not to stop the development. We're certainly all for the development and progress of the community of Norfolk, but we want to make sure we take care of the infrastructure. And that's what TIF funds are, is for infrastructure. So we need to look at Eisenhower Avenue and possibly even First Street, and how do we get the infrastructure to take care of these two businesses? And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you may have about our school and/or our facility.
I appreciate your input there, sir. Help me understand again where it was that there was an issue with the,
The tracks are on the corner of First and Eisenhower tonight already. If you go out there, they came around the corner of First Street onto Eisenhower, and the large trucks can't make the corner there. It's out there tonight. All you have to do is go out tomorrow morning, and you can see the tracks there.
Well, I guess the biggest thing, granted, that's a Google search that sent you that way, is because Google probably hasn't caught up to Industrial Road being in. I suspect when it does, it's going to bring the trucks down Industrial Road and over Victory Road to the site, because that's actually, I mean.
I don't believe there's an exit off of Industrial Road to Victory Road at this
there
time.
is. Comes on around, you go up to the
By
Newport
Norfolk
plant,
Iron?
you come back around, not by Norfolk Iron and Metal, you go,
Past there, okay.
yes,
Okay.
so. And
But, I mean, that's what the Google will do when those trucks come
Well-
in right now.
That's the problem with Google.
Okay,
I mean, I have trucks in my residential neighborhood that Google sends there looking for affiliated foods.
okay, wow, okay,
But I'm
But that is a
not looking to
concern.
increase my infrastructure at my residential area either.
Right.
so.
I just want to make sure we protect the safety of the children on Eisenhower Avenue.
We as well. So your input certainly is respected, sir. Thanks for being
Thank you.
before us. You bet.
Mayor and council, that's something, when we had the itch, and it still happens as Councilman Langy periodically, but it used to happen quite frequently where we had a truck go through a residential neighborhood because of the Google Map, not necessarily Google Maps, but the mapping software that's out in the nation. Our IT department made some calls, and that has reduced that quite a bit. We can sure do that again as now that we got Northeast Industrial Road open, and we can make those calls and try to get them to update their software. Of course, it's like moving mountains. You're talking to pretty big businesses, but they were, to their credit, they were fairly responsive when we made those inquiries last time about the affiliated foods mapping error that was going on.
I certainly would think, too, that we can probably request that those that are called to that location, those that are taken care of, can be made aware of a better traffic lane to get them to the location.
Are you sure, as far as the industrial
Yeah,
users?
those users that are,
coming
yeah.
and going? Yeah, absolutely. That's something we can work on.
So we can certainly make that suggestion, too. So anyone else that wants to come forward and speak to this? Okay. With that, I will close this public hearing then and look for consideration of Resolution 2015-37 approving the OCT pipe redevelopment plan.
Your Honor, I'd offer for consideration Resolution 2015-37.
Second that, Your Honor.
Okay, we have a motion with a second. Any discussion at all, council? If not, please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative.
All right. And under our regular agenda tonight, there's a notation here for November sales tax report, which is actually September sales. So Randy, you're going to report on that for us?
Yes, Your Honor. You'll see from the sales tax report in the agenda packet, we got about $153,000 of sales tax. The 1.5 cent sales tax receipts were about $640,000 of that, with a half cent for the library being about $213,000. The 1.5 cent sales tax receipts were way down from last year, which we expected. They were down over $86,000, or almost 12%. That's because of the hailstorm we had in June, brought a lot of business into town, bumped our sales tax up. We anticipated that when we did the budget. We actually got a little bit more revenue than what we had in the budget by 0.9%. Year to date, we're slightly over budget. How we did the budget, when we put the budget together, we tried to estimate what we would have gotten without the hailstorm, and to do that, we went back a year prior to that, bumped that up 2.1%, which is about what our sales tax increase has been averaging for the last number of years, and that's what we budgeted. So that would have been what we would have estimated we would have gotten last year without the hailstorm. So we would like to see our current year sales tax revenue up more than 0.19%, more like 2.1% to keep up with where we have been, but at least we're keeping up with our budget, and those sales tax numbers tend to be quite variable and bounce around from month to month. And I expect with construction of the OCT project getting underway, you'll have more people in town working on that. They'll be staying in hotels, eating at the restaurants,
Yeah.
buying stuff in town, and hopefully that will help our sales tax and get us more up to that 2.1% where we've been running for the last number of years.
Very good. Questions for Randy at all? Anyone? Okay, always appreciate having you here and giving us that update. Certainly we'll look for that increase, Randy. I think you're right, though. There'll be a lot of activity going on, and we're seeing that already in the downtown area. It's great to see. So, all right, we'll move on then to consideration of Resolution 2015-38, approving Madison County closing Eisenhower Avenue from 1,188 feet east of 13th Street to 3,383 feet east of 13th Street, including the bridge over the North Fork of the Elkhorn River. I'm requesting a motion.
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Second that, Your Honor.
All right, we have a motion with a second. We're going to look for some discussion here. Shane, do you want to take the lead on that?
Yes, Your Honor. What you have before you is really part of the statute requires that any type of lane closure or road closure that's in our 2-mile zoning jurisdiction that's outside the city limits but within our 2-mile zoning jurisdiction, in order for the county to deliberate, which they're currently doing right now, they need a permission from the first-class city to recommend approval or not. If we don't recommend approval, then they cannot close the road. So that's where you're at tonight for your consideration. I know the county is represented here by one of the commissioners, and they've had a public hearing, and in order, again, for them to move forward with their decision-making process, we have to move forward with ours. So with that being said, we're talking about a bridge that is old. It's an old bridge that's a high-rail bridge that's cattywampus across the river there. I believe the last time I was out there, just this week, I think it's a 5-ton limit. It sits in there cockeyed, and it has a 90 on entrance and exit, either way you go. I know there's been, in my 25 years, I've seen different trucks inside there. I've seen cars off that bridge into the water. So it's kind of not a great design by today's standards by any means. And it's old, so it's just like any aged infrastructure. It needs replaced at some point in the future, and the decision in front of you really is whether it makes good sense, dollars and cents wise, to replace this infrastructure with a new bridge, which would require a straightening of the road, and obviously a new bridge, which would cost millions of dollars to do. The fact that Northeast Industrial Highway is there, and we've invested as a county, both counties, Stanton, Madison County, Industrial Base, obviously the city of Norfolk as well, all partnered on that, along with other partners to create Northeast Industrial Highway. And we invested millions of dollars in that creation, and it's just a half mile to the north. So the greater traffic is, in the future, as you look forward, should be on Northeast Industrial Road. That's what it was designed for. So your staff would recommend that you would approve closing that bridge going forward, and then pushing the traffic towards Northeast Industrial Highway, and it's what it was designed for. When you weigh out the dollars and cents wise long-term, I'm not sure if it makes great sense to invest millions of dollars in a new bridge there for the limited traffic that it holds. That's what your staff recommends, but it's obviously for your consideration tonight. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Council, any questions you want to direct over to staff?
You say millions of dollars, where would the funds come, say we didn't close it, it didn't get fixed? Where would the funds come from?
At the end of the day, that's the county commissioner's decision-making, you know. I would assume the lion's share of it would come from Madison County taxpayers, which includes all of us. You know, there are some potential grants available out there, federal grants and otherwise, that would maybe help support those dollars. But federal grants are tax dollars as well, as you all know. So the lion's share would come from Madison County, I suspect. And, you know, again, the county commission has to decide that, you know, and they have, as we all do in government, at least in local government, our tax dollars are pretty precious. And to assign those in particular to projects that we have plenty of places to put our tax dollars that the citizens give us. So the hard decision-making is whether this is appropriate or not.
I think I read in the subcommittee notes that the daily usage of this bridge was about 275 vehicles. Is that the right number?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Per,
For Madison County's count.
I see. What about police and fire response time out to that area?
The fire chief's here, and I'm sure he'd be happy to talk about what his policy is as far as our heavy fire trucks. I don't know, Scott, if you'd want to address that, that'd be great.
Councilman, great question. Currently, we don't use that bridge. Our apparatus all way greater than the rated capacity of that. We could take a smaller vehicle across it, but none of our apparatus. We just weighed one of the ambulances today to make sure exactly where it was at. With a couple guys in it, it weighed just a little over 7 tons. So we're not going to take an ambulance across that as it currently is. So we would use the industrial highway and come around the backside or make the entrance from the east. So it's just something that the guys all know that we just can't use it currently. So it isn't a viable option right now for anything other than a staff pickup or one of those type of vehicles that are lighter weight as it stands today.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
yep.
Thanks,
Just
Scott.
for complete clarity, police response is the county sheriff, so, their cars are, they could go across there, but it's a county response.
Okay. Come on forward.
On the bridge, I do not feel it should be closed.
Sign in for me, will you? I know who you are, but
I'm
not everybody.
I'm Doug Stevens with
And-
Apache Manufacturing, for any of you that don't know me, okay?
And you'll sign.
On the bridge, I do not feel it should be closed. Number one, we use it a lot. We probably cross that bridge 10 to 15 times ourselves every day, okay? The bridge is very important to be there, and I think the road is very, very important to be there. I realize that there was a study done, or there was supposed to have been a study done by Mr. Johnson that said that there was 270 cars crossed that bridge in a 48-hour period of time. I do not think that that study is at all accurate. I have sat there for a half hour, 45 minutes myself at a time. There was approximately 1 to 2 cars on that road just about at all times during the daytime. I'm on that road anytime between 4 o'clock in the morning, and after that, we open our plant up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We have some people going in at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm out there sometimes early, sometimes I'm not out there till 8 o'clock in the morning, okay? But I see many, many vehicles crossing that road. At 270 vehicles crossing that road in a 48 period of time, that's one vehicle every 10.66 seconds.
Minutes.
That is not at all accurate. There is probably one vehicle crossing that road about every minute to minute and a quarter. There's a vehicle crossing that road. About any time that I am on that road, we have either got another vehicle ahead of me or we are meeting another vehicle. Many times when I'm at that bridge, we have a vehicle behind me gonna go across. We have another vehicle coming from the other way that we have to wait till they go across. That road is very heavily used by a lot of people going to that part of town. With the new tube plant going in, with the new Helena Chemical going in, you're gonna have people from the north and the northwest part of Norfolk that are gonna be going out into that direction, just like we have people coming into our plant, okay? Those people do not wanna go a half a mile north on First Street, or a half a mile north on 81, and then go a mile north or east on the new industrial road, then come back another half a mile to the south to get back on Eisenhower Avenue in order to go east. Also, at 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning, these people that are gonna be going to the tube plant, coming to our place, coming to wherever else they wanna go, they do not wanna be going down Benjamin Avenue with all that traffic on there, with the middle school, with the junior college, and all that traffic at the intersection of 4th Street and Benjamin Avenue. Okay. With the traffic you have crossing there now, with the traffic which you're going to have crossing there, when the tube plant goes in, because I am told by Ayers and Ayers people that they're going to have, their main exit is going to be on Victory Road, but they're also going to have an exit on Eisenhower Avenue. The chemical plant is definitely going to have an exit on Eisenhower Avenue. That's going to leave a lot more people working with cars, SUVs, pickups and stuff like that that are going to want to be crossing that road in Eisenhower Avenue. The other thing, you've got the school out there. If we would have a chemical problem at the spill problem at the chemical plant, and that spill problem would have the winds out of the east or out of the northeast, it would bring that stuff right across where the school is at. Those handicapped children are not like you and I. If we have a problem with something, we can take off running and getting away from it. Those handicapped kids are gonna have to be put into a vehicle and gotten out of there. If we close that bridge up, they are going right into the problem. And we can have a problem. Look what happened to us at the ethanol plant a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. when they pull in there with the semi, they do not get the connection properly from the semi onto the hose, and we end up having the truck driver ending up in the hospital. So these accidents do happen. These accidents will happen. It's not the matter if, it's just a matter of when this type of stuff is going to happen. I realize that we got to spend $2.5 million to put a bridge in there and get that road put back together. I also realize that we spent roughly $3 million more for the industrial road than what we were supposed to because of all the changes that went through. And I understand that nobody wants to throw that money away and spend $2.5 million on that bridge and on that road because of all the excess money they spent on the other road, which I really don't think that they should have had to because of some of the things, if you go out there and look at some of the things they've done on that industrial road, that I do not feel was ever necessary to be done. So I think there's a lot of reasons why that road needs to remain open. You know, I know Kenny Porter uses that road a lot. My Singer Oil uses that road a lot. People going to the school uses the road a lot. People coming to our plant uses that road a lot. People going on out towards the regional center uses that road a lot. So there are just many, many reasons why I feel that road needs to remain open. I think it would be a total mistake if that road was closed. I understand it costs a lot of money. I understand there's other places in the county we need to put our money. But we need to put our money at the places where the road is used the most instead of where places where it's not used that much. This is really all I have to say about this, but I think it would be a total mistake if we would close that road because someplace down the line with all the industry that's going to go on in that part of town out there, with Helena Chemical and with the tube plant and with all that other land out there that's got the railroad in that access area out there, you know, we've got 50 acres in our plant. We've got 25 acres in the corner that we have railroad access to. That has a possibility of having some development sometime. Okay, you have no way to get onto Victory Road coming off Industrial Highway unless you go a mile east up to the Newcourt corner and come back around the ethanol plant to get back to Victory Road. You have no way to get on Victory Road with the exception of that. So with what you got, you come up Industrial Road, hit First Street, you go a half a mile back to the south, and then you go east on Eisenhower Avenue to get to that area out there that has great potential of developing someday into being a whole big industrial area out in that part of town. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hey, Doug, I need you to sign in, though, if you would, please.
What? Sure.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor and Councilman. My name is Kay Yeager, and I'm a paraeducator at Eastern Learning Center. This letter was read at the Madison County Commissioners meeting December 1st and was signed by the 2 teachers and 20 paraeducators at our school. We are concerned about how our school will be affected by closure of the bridge. We have 20-plus students with special needs. Some of our students have health issues that are at times require immediate care, including transportation via rescue unit to the hospital. Our school is surrounded by farm ground, and there will soon be a chemical fertilizer facility located at First and Eisenhower, just east of our school. If there were to be a fire, an incident at the fertilizer facility, or any type of accident that would force the closure of First Street at the east end of our road, we would have no way to evacuate our students. We use that bridge many times during the school day. We go to Norfolk High School each day to pick up our hot lunch. We have groups of students that travel to job sites at Golden Living, Green Line, Hy-Vee West, Sunset Plaza, Little Caesars, Mercy Meals, Norfolk Senior Center, Culver's, Divots, Faith Regional, and Pizza Hut. We understand that road and bridge maintenance can be costly, but if saving the bridge saves even one life, we would like to believe that you would consider it worth the cost. And respectfully, and the employees did sign this letter at the bottom. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you need a copy of that letter from her read in? If you could have a copy of that, if we could have a copy of that letter that we put in, we'd appreciate that. Okay. Mr. Johnson, Commissioner, would one of you, either one, want to come forward and speak to this? I've never known you, Mr. Johnson, not to have.
I don't say bad things about you, Dick, I just want accuracy. And your numbers are not at all accurate.
Again, I think it's just important that you share a little bit with this council as far as the decision-making from maybe the,
Well, no decision's been made yet.
I
I'll tell you
understand
how I
that,
arrived
right.
at my recommendation.
Yeah.
I'm not, well, the bridge is obviously structurally deficient. I think it's got a sufficiency rating of 22, which is not good. It was built in 1906. I'm not terribly concerned about the bridge, as that may sound funny, but the bridge will take care of itself. The state requires that it be inspected every year, or the federal highway does, or whatever. And at some point, it'll deteriorate enough that we'll hit the threshold where we have to close it and take it out of service. My biggest concern is the alignment. You know, Shane alluded to it. You have to make a right angle turn to get onto the bridge and a right angle turn to get off of the bridge, which is real dangerous. We had 3 hits there earlier this year, trucks. But in my opinion, it is a public safety issue more than anything. It could be replaced, I'm guessing somewhere $2 to $2.5 million range. I don't know that I would recommend that at this point in time because we've got plenty of other places to spend our money. And one other thing as far as the alignment, if the road was straight, I don't think we'd even be having this discussion. We'd probably just leave it open until the bridge got to the point where it had to be closed and then decide what to do with it.
but because of the alignment, you're
Because of the
concerned.
alignment, it's dangerous. There were 2 property damage accidents on that area of road last year. This year, like I said, there's been at least 3 trucks that have hit it. I seem to remember a fatality, or maybe a double fatality or something a few years ago. I think they ended up in the water. But it's, you know, like I say, it's more of a public safety issue from my point of view.
Okay, any questions for Dick while he's in front of you? Anybody?
I got just one question. Okay, so you talked about plenty of other projects out there to work on, you know, for money to go to. So once you classify this bridge as being closed off the, you know, basically it's done forever for consideration of reopening, or, you know what I mean? So, I mean, basically decision day, so if you're saying, well, we're closing her down, then that will never be looked at again for funding.
Well,
Is that correct?
Not completely. Right now, it's eligible for federal aid. Basically, the state has a large bridge program, and they go around, and I don't know why they picked this bridge. Your Norfolk Avenue Bridge is another one. That probably makes a little more sense. But in effect, they've got $16 or $18 million worth of work, and they've got $10 million. So they're trying to categorize them. I've tried to get some information from the state. They aren't going to have exactly what I need for a while, but the guy I talked to said right now at best we're borderline. So, you know, that doesn't bode well. If it did go to federal aid, our experience with the federal aid program, well, you're probably looking at 6 or 7 years before it would actually be built. And the cost of the county would still be $500,000, roughly.
And this bridge has got way less than 7 years left in it
I don't know. It's been there since 1906.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know that, there's been a whole lot of deterioration at this point in the game. You know, the members there's corrosion on them, especially underneath, but they're all fairly solid. We spent $20,000 in 2008, I think, is when my son got married, and then replaced the north span.
Is that when it went from 10 ton to 5 ton?
No, it was 5 ton at that, I don't remember what it was back then, but, no, we did that because, you could see through some of the stringers, and I don't particularly care for that.
Yeah.
I wanted to close it permanently, and the word got out, and within about 30 minutes, I had 30 emails saying, leave it open, and one said, close it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's kind of where it stands.
Why now, Dick?
Why now what?
Why now are we looking at, I mean, why now is it under consideration? Because of what you're saying, you believe it to be the issue of public safety?
Because we opened Northeast Industrial Highway.
Okay.
And it's, and the other thing, as far as your question, Shane, that I wanted to touch on, I've got 2 buyers for it.
For the bridge?
Yeah, but probably, at least at this point in time, I'd leave it in place, because either we could replace it down the road, you know, as long as it's there, we could still go in and replace it with federal aid someday if we wanted to, and if the funds were available. But what I kind of had in the back of my mind was leave it there and try to get the funds put over on another bridge that I think is more valuable to the county. And, you know, my selling point is going to be, hey, we're taking out 2 deficient bridges to build one.
So Dick, does the federal government is talking about their highway, 5-year highway funding, is any of those dollars trickle down to?
Oh, yeah, that's where
us?
it comes from, yeah.
And is that going to trickle any faster than that 5 to 7 time, 7-year time period you're talking about? Or do you have any idea?
I don't have any idea. The only reason that it might be a little faster is because for, 10 years, the federal government has just been kind of going stopgap, and the states don't really have a guarantee, if you will, that the money will be there. So they've been real conservative about doling it out.
But that highway bill, I don't believe is a stopgap bill?
No, it's a 5-year bill.
Yeah.
Typically, they'd pass 6 in the past, but, you know, they've been going 6 months or a year or something, and they finally got together and decided we should do some infrastructure work. And I understand the president's supposed to sign it, so.
Yeah. Have there been any discussions on the anticipated traffic volume up there once OCT comes in? We're looking at hopefully other things going up in there too. Has the discussion been made about what we think 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road the potential traffic volume would be?
No, not really. I was a little dismayed to hear about the trucks going east on Eisenhower from First Street. I'd like to talk to the gentleman from Airs and Airs before he leaves, but we've got a 12-ton bridge there that loaded trucks shouldn't be going across, irregardless of what happens down here. But the other issue with this bridge, you've got a terrible intersection at Highway 81. Not only from alignment, but from vertical, because it basically goes over the flood control and drops down, and, you know, that would be part of what would have to be improved, is all the way to 81.
My question was not necessarily industrial traffic, but more passenger car traffic, if you will, folks going to work, leaving work, all of that.
Well, we didn't, you know, I mean, we typically base our decisions on current traffic count, but no, we haven't done any projections to see what it would be in the future.
Do you have the wherewithal to do that?
Hire a traffic engineer, I suppose.
Okay. You have any idea
But
what that
it's-
runs?
What's that?
You have any idea how much that is?
Would cost?
Yeah.
Oh, 8 or 10,000 maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. That's about what it was up north. that they're gonna have to make some assumptions too, you know, or, I mean, is the bridge gonna stay open?
We're going to find that out here pretty
What's,
quick.
Well, we don't have the final decision.
No, I
Please
know.
understand that, council.
if, well, yeah, and, you know, we don't know what, I mean, is OTC gonna head out that way with their passenger, or, you know, passenger vehicles? You know, there's a lot of unknowns that they would have to make assumptions for. One thing we might be able to do, just thinking about it, is look at the study that you guys had done, I think in 2005 or something, and see if that shows anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Would you want to get these OTC up and running and get Helena Chemical up and running, and then look at this at that point in time? Or I mean, I'm just.
Yeah.
throwing it out
Well,
there.
right now, okay, fine, let's say OTC and Helena between them put another 250 vehicles a day on there. Right now, the way it stands in my mind, that's 250 more chances for an accident.
Is there a way, from an engineering perspective, the replacement of the bridge addresses the alignment concerns that you have?
We'd have to address the alignment concerns. It just isn't, I mean, you've got to build these roads and city streets and everything to state standards. You can't just go out and do what you want. What we'd probably do, if we were building it, if you can envision coming down Eisenhower from the east, you know, we'd probably start the bridge way back and put a skew on it to get across the channel. There's a big power line on the south side that would be very expensive to move if we had to get into that. There's probably some environmental issues on the north side, not to mention 3 residences. And we can go to the Board of Classifications and ask for relaxation of standards, but they're not going to relax it down to what's there now, I promise.
The project is technically eligible for both state and federal.
It's
funding.
on a list that, you know, they look at a whole bunch of factors in deciding which ones to build. ADT, sufficiency rating, like I said, detour length. You know, and like I said, with Northeast Industrial Highway, a half a mile north there, to me, it just doesn't make sense to put the money here.
And I got to assume that's part of your thought there as well. You know, let's get OTC and the new plants in position so that they don't have the use of that road from the get-go. I mean, I can see your logic in thinking, if you don't have it, your choice is going to be, you're going to be using industrial road. I understand. I get where you're coming from. I don't know, guys. Any other questions or, Jim?
Yep. So the, couple questions. And Mr. Stevens was taking an objection with, you had 270 vehicles per day?
Yeah,
Okay, because that's.
something like that.
That's far from a vehicle every 10 to 15 seconds or 20 seconds, what I heard, because
Yeah.
my calcs tell me that real quick is that it's 2 minutes to a vehicle. So, and of that 270 vehicles, I'm going, okay, there's the testimony that there's 20 students there plus the teachers in that. So I'm thinking it's fairly safe to say that probably half of that vehicle traffic is probably generated by the school itself anyway. Maybe, maybe not.
I don't
but,
know. I think a lot
That's
of
kind of regardless, you know, my concern, and we keep talking safety situations here, my concern is, you know, I used to travel that road a little more going out to the Nucor area and stuff like that, and quit doing it because the drop-off of the kids at the school alone, to me, appeared to be a very unsafe situation because of the amount of traffic that was, you know, the limited amount of traffic that was rolling through there, but it was still rolling through there, and they were dropping off and walking across and things like that. I personally think it's safer not having the access from the west for the school itself there. Then wanted to just ask you a question on the 2.5 or plus or minus rough estimate for the bridge replacement. That's putting in a new bridge. That doesn't cover changing the road surface, coming to it, making it so that it's not as skewed as it is.
We threw in $500,000 or something like that for that. Whether it'd be enough or not, I don't know.
And it doesn't cover the intersection or how we would jump the canal or anything like that. So I'm going, and the federal aid stuff just covers the bridge itself. It doesn't cover the road.
I don't know what they do in this case.
Because
I know ironically in about 1984, my dad had the bridge designed to straighten it out and go up on the flood control and over to 81. And Department of Roads says, we're stopping at the end of the bridge. And the county said, well, we can't afford to take the rest of it, so.
Well, and that was kind of my point. I mean,
Yeah.
we were bouncing at 2.5 saying, well, the feds are going to give us, somebody else is going to help us with this some, but it really isn't, the 2.5, I don't think is an accurate number that it's actually going to take to do something up there that would ultimately be a safe situation, so.
Well, it's a rough guess, but that's all.
And then the other thing, you're looking for a recommendation from us, or resolution from us. It doesn't, even if our resolution comes in and says that we're fine with you closing it, it doesn't necessarily mean that that the county's gonna close it anyway. So I think that appears to be some of the assumptions that, okay, the city council's saying it's closed. That's not the case, so.
Oh, yeah, that is.
Yeah. Once you have.
First of all, we never do anything the city doesn't want, but.
Well, that's exactly my point.
No,
So,
the state statute says that we can't vacate or abandon it without prior approval from the city because it's within your zoning jurisdiction. So if you say no, then we're done, basically.
yeah, and my final question then is, okay, if the resolution passes and you go forward and you decide that, well, okay, we're gonna close it, but you don't remove the bridge, and things change on around enough that you say, well, okay, yeah, there could be that much traffic on there, it's just merely us removing the resolution and and the county deciding to spend the additional funds that would take to correct the bridge situation. This absolute mentality that once it's closed, it's always gone, isn't exactly accurate, so.
No, we could go in and acquire a right-of-way and build a new bridge and a new road if there was a need for it.
That's what I was getting at, is because, again, we're talking about building roads. We have a dollar amount, but we've probably got property acquisition that is not included. It's like, I just don't feel that the 2.5, in my mind, is anywhere close, so. Not to jump your estimate or anything that way, but, I don't think that that's an accurate.
So to kind of clarify what you just said, Councilman Lange, if in fact the resolution that's before us tonight is approved, then it goes back to the county to then continue the efforts.
Right.
But if this council says
Turn it down, we'll probably, I'm not sure, we'd probably pass a motion not vacating it. I'm not sure how you do that, but if you approve it and send it down to the county next Tuesday, then the board will make a decision. And they can say, okay, let's vacate it, or they can say, nah, we've had second thoughts, let's leave it open.
Okay.
But if we say no, in your view, and maybe you can't tell, but does it expedite the county's desire to replace the bridge?
Does it expedite the county's desire to replace it?
Does it, the plans, if there were plans to replace?
No, I don't think it would. If you said no, I might ask you if you want to annex it. Then you'd say no, and then we'd go on and maintain it just like we always have been. But I don't think that getting it turned down here is going to move it to the front of any project list as far as we're concerned.
Dick, has the county ever had to go out and rent one of those temporary lights you see them when they're working on bridges on 275? And, you know, they're working on a half a bridge, so they'll put the lights out there. They're temporary until they get the bridge done, but turns red, turns green.
No.
Oh.
No, we've never done that.
Okay.
We've put up some flashing reds at First and Northeast Industrial Highway just to call attention to the stop, but we've never.
We're just curious what
Like
the
that.
lease rate on those would be, or how expensive they would be to have on site
I don't have any idea.
for a temporary
Yeah.
safety measure.
You know if the state did a traffic study?
The state
basically
traffic counts a week or two before we did. I haven't been able to get a hold of those yet. I'm trying.
All right. I was just wondering, that's kind of my question of how did he get on their list? And I would think that would be one of their
Yeah.
items that they use to get it on the list. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have a question for Dick. I do have a statement. We built that highway up there to decrease some of the traffic on Benjamin because Benjamin's getting tore up. Benjamin's a nightmare anyhow, down by the middle school, down by First Street like we talked about. I do think if we close this, you are going to catch a lot more traffic trying to sneak down Benjamin and go up First or go up Victory Road because they are not going to drive clear up there and hit the highway and come back. The truck traffic will, but I'm talking people going to work, people going here, people going there. I think that will increase the danger of the corners of First and Benjamin and Fourth and Benjamin right in there where it's already a nightmare to try and get through there when school's going on, things like that. So I agree with Dick, maybe that's a traffic little nightmare out there by the bridge, but I think it'd be bigger if we are forcing people to come up Benjamin and go that way to get to their jobs and things like that. I think we're going to increase Benjamin traffic. We're trying to figure out how to keep that from getting beat up and maybe even expand that someday. So I just don't agree with closing this. I just think there's too much going on with us putting more businesses out there and putting more things out there. I think it's going to be a nightmare if we do close this. So that's just my opinion.
And that's what we're looking for, Councilman. So,
I guess I tend to agree with some of those concerns. I think you are going to see increased traffic in coming years there due to the industrial development. And the school's concerns are valid, I believe, about an alternative evacuation route. Plus, you have a brand-new highway bill that there's been no time to really examine whether there might be some potential additional help there. So I'm hesitant about approving this at this point in time.
Mayor,
yes, sir.
may I add a comment?
Yeah.
One thing that I don't think we've actually talked about much, and then Dick alluded to it a bit, but when you're talking about the public safety aspect of that, and if that's real, if we believe that's real, I would agree with him. I think it's real. I think the Chief can speak to it for himself, but with Dick's statements there, I'm curious, Dick, if with that statement being made, does that worry the county that there's increased liability if we leave the bridge open and an accident does happen?
Not really. You know, we, well, in, God, when was it? Probably about 1970 or whatever, the Board of Classifications and Standards was created by state statute. And they set the standards for the public roads. Prior to that, there weren't any or very few. And so basically from the county standpoint, you know, we inherited it. You know, it's obviously not the standard, but from that standpoint, I don't think it's a real big issue. And keep in mind, we've got liability on every bridge and every culvert and every stretch of road and every sign out there. You know, we try to sign them and make them as safe as we can for the public, but there are places that are bad, but I don't know that it would be an increased liability. I mean, if there was a wreck out there, I think there's some smart lawyers running around here that would figure out that it's not the standard and start going after that, irregardless of what we've said here tonight or what we do tonight.
So the council's recommendation, if they recommend it against closure, then does that shift any liability to the city of Norfolk, in your opinion?
I wouldn't think so.
Don't be giving him any ideas.
I got a question, if I can ask it.
Sure?
I think the times when we had problems on that bridge with damage was due to trucks.
Doug, why don't you come forward so that we can make sure that,
You done with me?
don't go too far, Dick. Yeah, please.
I think the times when we had problems on that road, it was due to trucks, okay? And I really feel that the problems that we have on the road due to trucks is the fact that the road is not very well marked. On the west end, there's two little signs that says no truck traffic, circle with a line through it, no trucks, and another little sign that says a 5-ton bridge ahead. That's what we have on the west end.
Right.
On the east end, we have one little sign that says 5-ton bridge ahead. That's all we have, okay? Is what that road needs some signage on the west, some signage on the east. I think there's electricity on that corner on the east, I'm real sure there is. There's electricity on that corner on the west, I'm real sure there is. And we could have signage there with lights on it, flashing to show no trucks on that sign. I only recall one incident where we had a problem with a passenger vehicle, and I think that was that night when that gal ran off the bridge and got down in the water and got killed, drowned, whatever the case happened to be. But all the rest of the problems we've had on that bridge has been with trucks. Now, I know all the trucks that are coming out to our place, they all want my address so they can put it in their GPS, and I tell them all, I'll give you my address, but don't use it. Because you cannot cross that bridge, you're gonna get a half a mile down there, and you're gonna have to back up that crooked road, and you're not gonna like me. So don't put it in your GPS to come out here. Go on out half mile further to Industrial Road, go a mile to the east, come back the half mile and come in that way. Or if they're coming in from the south, when you get to the north end of the viaduct, go 2 miles east, turn, go 3 miles north, come back a quarter mile to the west and come to our place. And I don't tell any trucks to come down Benjamin Avenue. I tell them all to go down Omaha Avenue, or if they're coming from the east, to come up Victory Road, or to go out to the Industrial Road, okay? So I don't think the truck traffic is a problem if we would put proper signage on both ends of the road is what we really need to get accomplished. And I don't know what that's gonna cost. I think it'd be a very minor cost to probably get that done. In fact, if the county went to, I'd even share in the cost of that. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Because if we get proper signage on both ends of that road, I think we keep the trucks off. If we keep the trucks off, we just have car, pickup, SUV traffic on that road, and I don't think we have a lot of problems with it. I agree, someday the bridge needs to be straightened out. We could just take it right to the east, shoot it across the channel, and bring that road back. It looks to me like if we're gonna do something out there, we do the bridge first. Now we solve the bridge problem, and then we do like in 3 phases, then we bring the road into it from both ends, and then we do the corner up on Highway 81 next. So I think there's some things we can do with that to spread out our cost on it. I realize we don't want to spend a lot of money if we don't have to. County don't have a lot of money, but there's things we can do to get this thing accomplished if we want to, and I think signage is very important. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome.
Could I clarify a comment that was made earlier, too?
Sure, if you want to come forward, we want to keep you on TV, folks. Let the community know the discussion.
Councilman Lang said about unloading and loading students on Eisenhower Road. Since I've been there, we've changed that, and now we load them on the site. We pull them into our property to do that so that we do not stop traffic. We go in and we've created a road on our property to make a loop to get the kids loaded and unloaded. And there was a problem when I first arrived with parking along there, and we've created off-road parking now too. So I know you probably didn't know that, but we have changed that in the last 3 years since I've been here, because it was a safety issue, and I concur 100% with that.
But all I was getting at is, since the fall time, I've witnessed it, where they unload on the south side and walk on across.
They walk across the road?
Yes.
I
witnessed it.
I'm not going to argue with you because I'm not there every day, but we have created a road on property with
No, I
sleigh.
realized that and saw that, and when I witnessed the people walking across, I was going.
That would bother me,
What
yes.
is a matter here? Because go in there, but I witnessed them.
Okay.
Coming
I
across.
said, I'm not going to argue that point, but we have created off-road parking and
Right.
a road in there, so thank you.
You bet. I have a county commissioner in the back that wants to come forward. And yeah.
I want to rebut Mr. Stevens first.
Okay,
On the signing,
Yes,
carrying
sir.
the problem,
yes.
we built Victory Road, Ethanol Road, Northeast Industrial Highway. We had type 3 barricades all over the place, road closed ahead, road closed 1 mile, no through traffic, you name it. And we had truck drivers. I remember several that had to back from Victory Road and Eisenhower back to First Street. So I don't know that signs are going to cure the problem.
Okay. Commissioner, introduce yourself to this group here
Ron
and
Schmidt.
sign in for us.
District, or Commissioner from Madison. And I just wanted to take and speak to Shane's concern about, we've made this public. And we had our, NERMA is our insurance company for the county.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if NERMA does cities but anyway, we had the gentleman out, his name is Tim Baxter, we wanted him to look at the bridge, look at the approach, and he's an expert with sign. He's the one that would advise us on signs and, excuse me. And he did say, if we decide to keep it open, there'll be some changes. He would recommend some changes on signage. But how, whether that would solve the problem or not, we don't know. It is a real concern about trucks, especially when they come from the west. And they come down in there and they have to stop and then they have to back up. And there was a landowner, or one of the people that were in one of the houses there, that said, normally, he says, in a month, several times, he has to help a truck back over the hump onto Riverside so somebody doesn't, because it's just a blind turn for him to back up. And so he was certainly in favor of it. Listening to all this testimony, it's hard. It's hard, and we certainly want to do what's right for the community. But the guy from Norman just said, Ron, if you have it correctly signed, even if you say, this is a dangerous place, he said, if you have it correctly signed, he doesn't see that it's a problem. So just to address that, Shane.
I appreciate that. It's hard to talk about public safety and all day long and then not think about liability in the future, because we can't predict the future. So I appreciate that comment.
So if you have any other questions, Dick's the guy, really, but.
Yeah, but it's you that certainly, we appreciate your being over here and listening to the concerns of. And I know you went through them too.
Yeah.
But again, thanks for being here. And I see another commissioner. Is there any remarks, Commissioner? Yep, if you're here just to listen, great. We've had great testimony and. I'm here to listen. Okay, very good. Thanks for being here. All right. Council, anything else? All right, then we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll just repeat, just so it's clear, just so the council knows.
Right.
This is a county decision. And if you vote against, you got to remember that they need your approval for it, so they can't even, it's hard for them to even act on it after you. So it is a county decision. Just because you vote to approve doesn't mean that they'll vote to approve. It's their decision to make. It's their bridge.
Fair enough. All right, with that, I'm going to ask that you vote.
Voting in favor of Resolution 2015-38, council members Lange and File. Voting against the resolution, Granquist, Merrill, Clausen, Moaning, Faust. Motion fails.
Okay, great discussion. Thanks, everyone, for coming out, testifying. And with that, we're going to move on. So now I'm looking for consideration of approval of ordinance number 5375, amending section 2-110 to allow purchasing without local bids pursuant to contracts or agreements with entities created under the Interlocal Cooperation Act or the Joint Public Agency Act, where the price was established through a public procurement process. So, if I could, looking for a motion for consideration.
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
All right, we have a motion with a second. I think Mr. Lett is coming forward to speak to that.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Would have been late summer or early fall, or excuse me, late spring, early summer, that you approved the state contract for purchasing for the city, which is with U.S. Bank. We had an old contract with them that allowed for a rebate of 0.25%, excuse me, 25 basis points. With us going on that new contract, along with the universities in Nebraska, Kearney, Wayne State, a bunch of communities like Scotts Bluff, Hastings, we have got the ability to use the power of purchasing pool, the power of a purchasing pool to get a bigger rebate. So historically, we've gotten about an $8,000, $8,500 rebate every year on our purchases. Well, we just got our first one back, and that's for a quarter, and we got that same amount. The ability to purchase in pools is what we're talking about here as well. When we come to talking about special equipment, like what we're going to talk about next, if you look forward on your agenda, there is some valuable benefit to be able to purchase with a group of entities, public entities, that have gone through the vetting process of figuring out the best process to bid, that have the subject matter experts to really know the nuts and bolts and the details of what we're looking at. This doesn't necessarily change anything in our purchasing agreement. It allows us the opportunity to save the city and the taxpayers more in these purchasing pools. Is there any questions about this before we talk about
I think you keep going.
Keep going?
I think so.
Okay.
Unless I'm mistaken, but I think you explained well. So keep going.
All right.
Only question I would have, Lyle, is you would not necessarily give up local control
No.
over what you want to buy, right?
No, it's not taking anything away from what we do, that it's only adding to. If I might jump ahead to what we're going to talk about next,
Sure thing.
there's nobody in Norfolk, really the region, that is going to supply a service like we're going to ask about next. It's not taking anything away from anybody here in town. It is just adding a purchasing value to the citizens.
Okay.
It can be used in other departments as well. I know Fire Chief Scott Quarters talked about the potential for equipment for that. The street department has the potential for purchasing equipment through a similar type agreement that is done on a larger scale for a greater discount. Any other questions?
What?
Sure.
I'm just reading the one, it says allow purchasing without local bids. So by entering these pools and getting our rebate or however you want to call it, are you setting yourself up for a situation where you wouldn't be pursuing local contract or local bids at all?
I don't think so, because we want to purchase as much locally as we can, as long as the value is there for the taxpayers. If given the opportunity to purchase locally versus purchase non-locally, and it's fair and even, of course we want to purchase locally. If it's not, if there's a little bit more to a local purchase, that's actually probably where I'd ask you for your input. Do we want to save more and do business in town, or excuse me, save more from a distant purchase, or pay a little bit more and do a purchase local?
Most of these supplies are, I'll give you an example. International, back when I was, and Scott could talk to it, I guess, directly if you'd like, but Scott, you want to talk about the IFC's arrangement and purchasing gloves, something simple as gloves in bulk through the IFC. The International Fire Chiefs Association has a purchase conglomerate, for lack of better words, across the whole United States, and they can get the same gloves that we purchase from faraway company in a book that we have. They just have the purchasing power of all the departments that participate in that, and then we can get the prices lowered exceptionally just on something as routine as rubber gloves that the EMTs use daily. So that's just one little tiny example. The pictometry here is another example that's unusual. It's really those unusual cases where we can reach out and partner with sister cities or other agencies, as in the case here, and make a big bang for our buck, because we are like partners that have the purchasing power of more than one. So that's really what we're reaching for there, and in this particular case, for sure. So that's what the ordinance does. If you change it tonight, it allows us to partner in your next item and purchase those on a more collective basis.
Some of the other communities that have partaken in this have been Kearney, Beatrice, Grand Island, Lincoln, Council Bluffs, Sidney, Columbus, Sioux City, Crete have done similar type agreements. The other thing that is really beneficial and a significant cost savings, especially when it comes to something like pictometry, this oblique aerial imagery, is the subject matter experts that come with it. The knowledge expertise that's needed to compare apples to apples is very large, and we don't necessarily have a designated individual for something like that. With the joining of groups, like this consortium we'll talk about next, or similar to what Shane talked about, we have the ability to exercise those subject matter experts. Any other questions?
So the group purchases, they decide where the products are being purchased, or it's just the qualified person you can buy from they're not dictating where you buy your product?
No, they're saying that this group, can we use this next one as an example?
Yeah, go ahead.
They are providing a service that is very unique, very specialized, very complicated. The way our purchasing is set up right now, we would have to buy that separate potentially. We would have to do the research on our own, the legwork that takes staff time, and basically time is really what it boils down to, time being money, is significant. So they have those experts in there. They have the experts for public safety equipment that know the details about that ultimately save us time and money.
I guess my concern's really not about the specialized equipment. I'm talking about the stuff that's not so specialized.
Okay.
Say, you need a couple more cruisers, or we need a new truck, or, if we're hauling the dump from the landfill now, we purchase the next time we buy a truck from there. Does that group dictate where we're buying that vehicle from? Can we still buy local? Those are the things.
Sure.
Are we painting ourselves in a corner here?
That's a great question.
You're not required.
No, we're not required to. It's just a tool, the opportunity to use for specialized equipment.
You likely wouldn't utilize this resource for something like that.
Right, not for something that we do on a normal day-to-day or even year-to-year basis. We'll still continue to shop locally for our trucks and our cruisers and our cars and our everything else that we do locally.
But if you're in this pool, wouldn't that pool then say, if you buy with us on this, we're all looking at buying these trucks. If we all buy together, we get this rebate, we do that. Aren't you kind of setting ourselves up for a situation where it's not going to be feasible to buy local?
The particular pool that we're talking about in the next item is completely separate and far and away from any other kind of purchase. That's very individualized, very unique. You know, if you set yourself up in a pool, it'd be similar to the state contract that we utilize when we purchase vehicles now. State goes through goes through a process, and then they said, you can buy this cruiser, and Lyle knows all about that, for this price. Then we take that price to our local vendors, and if they can match that price, we buy them locally. That's how we utilize the state's resource, and it's similar to that. The next item is very, very unique, but in order for us to utilize this next unique item, we have to change the ordinance to allow us to do that.
We just bought, I think, 2 tractors in the last, since the beginning of the fiscal year, that were through a state contract process. The bid was set by the state contract process. It was actually bought and delivered through the local dealers. The price was set there, you took the price to the local dealer, they honored that price. Well, that's how it was worked. One of them was John Deere. There was a discount off of list price dealt with through the local vendor, through the local dealer.
Yeah, so it doesn't limit our ability to shop locally at all.
And there's a number where that kicks in, is that $30,000 or?
For what?
Are you
The
talking-
formal purchasing contract?
Yeah.
Yes, $30,000 plus is the formal purchasing. And if you're looking at your sheet in front of you, you'll notice that section 2-110 is formal purchasing, and this goes through onto the next page as a subheading of I, letter I. So that is correct.
Just a little. Essentially, what we're doing by passing this is opening another door or another window to look at other options that way.
That is
And we're
correct.
not limiting ourselves that we have to go through that door. And just because you're in a pool doesn't mean that you have to jump in the water at that point in time.
Right. There will be opportunities to save money, save time, but we don't have to exercise them if we choose not to.
The only reason I question it was because right in the ordinance, it says allowing purchase without local bids.
Pursuant.
Pursuant to contracts or agreements.
Right.
So, you know.
Go ahead, Clint.
Here's where you're at right now. First of all, I think that generally speaking, there's a perception that the municipality needs to bid lots of things that you, by state law, that you don't need to bid. Okay? So state law, first of all, says, basically, the only thing that this council needs to bid is public works projects that are gonna cost more than $30,000 if there is going to be an assessment of some of those costs, because you're building a street in front of my house, okay? The ordinance 2-110 that Lyle's talking about here, and which has this amendment offered to it, really reflects then the council's policy, and it's got various gradients in there, but the council's policy says, if you're spending something more than $30,000, then you're going to go through a formal bid process, okay? And what we're really talking about here is only those situations when you don't have, it's an exception to that process, and this would add to them. Right now, there's one that says, if you purchase under a contract from the state of Nebraska, it's already been bid, the state of Nebraska has it on a contract, there's been a public process. So you can go out there and you can look at a cruiser or whatever and say, we're gonna police interceptor, this is what it costs, okay? And then as Shane says, that's the second option that's there. One that was added not all that long ago that says, if you look at at that state price and you go down to your local dealer and say, here's a police interceptor that we can buy off of this contract for $26,000, will you sell it to us for $26,000? If they say yes, then you don't need to go under your ordinance. You don't need to go through a formal bid process. The two that are here now talk about two other, would create, if it was enacted by the council, two other things. One is, and I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, the aerial flying thing, that's the next thing on the agenda, is one where there is a group around Omaha that has expertise and has formed an Interlocal Cooperation Act, and they've gone out and they've bid all of this stuff. And what they're saying is they're willing to let the city of Norfolk into their process. If the city were to do this themselves, since it costs more than $30,000, or believed to cost more than $30,000, you would have to go through a formal bid process to comply with your ordinance. If this were enacted, you can tag with those folks, you can utilize the expertise that is available in the metropolitan area for that, and so on and so forth. The fourth one is one that talks about a joint public agency where the cost of the item being purchased has been established through a public procurement, through a bid process, whatever that is. For example, let's say that you wanted to buy a sewer jet, a Vector truck, okay? A Vector to clean the sewers, where you jet out the sewers. I don't think we have a sewer jet dealer in town, do we?
No.
So when you bid that thing, if you go through a formal process, somebody way far away that is in a bigger place or whatever is the folks that have always won those bids, correct?
I don't think there's a manufacturer in the state.
Yeah, so what that says is that where you've got this joint agency that's present, and the Nebraska law allows for this, that whether it's a joint agency within the state of Nebraska or outside the state of Nebraska, if a police group or a fire group or a sewer group has gone together and said, if our folks that are members of this want to buy a sewer jet, what does it cost? They put a number out there, you can go look at that, and then the folks that are responsible, the managers, the council, whoever, can look at that and say, do we want to bid this because we think it's going to cost more than $30,000? Or do we want to pay this price and we don't have to go through the process of bidding it, write specs, and do all of that? That's what the ordinance does.
I think me and Rob should form a pool.
Of what? Scares me.
Remember, we reserve the right to join that pool or not.
Ah, okay.
I'm gonna pay this amount.
I'd wait for warmer weather. If I were to get the pool.
All right, all right. Any other questions for Lyle as he stands before us here? Okay. I'm not cutting you off.
That's fine.
Everybody, okay. All right. So any further discussion at all here, council? Forgetting Rob and Shane down here. How about a short title, Beth? Do we have one?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 2-110 of the official city code to allow the city to purchase supplies, equipment, or services from a vendor by way of a contract or agreement authorized by the Interlocal Cooperation Act or under a contract or agreement with a joint public agency where the acquisition cost of the item being purchased has been established through a public procurement process, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
And with that, I would ask that you vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5375 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I would move that we suspend the rules and pass this ordinance on second and third reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass on second and third. If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5375 carries on second and third.
And next is consideration of approval of an agreement between the Omaha Council Bluffs Metropolitan Area Planning Agency and the City of Norfolk to obtain oblique aerial photography for the region with the City of Norfolk's cost share totaling $52,172 to be made in 3 equal payments over 3 years, 2016, 17, and 18. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion with a second. Any more discussion? Dennis, you're going to give us a little bit of insight on what this
We have,
thing is?
we've participated with this group before, and 3 years ago, for some reason, we missed the cutoff. Prior photography had been just looking down from the top. The oblique photography lets you look at things from all 4 sides. This happens to be the arch out over the interstate in Kearney. That's what you get with this is what you get with the typical aerial photography, where you're looking straight down. You're looking at it from the east, the north, the south, and the west. And that's anywhere in your community if you have this oblique photography. It's a huge step up from what we've had before. They did a 6-year process. We can't get a price as good as what we can get with Omaha. on a 3-year deal on our own so we can get back on the schedule with them. They've also negotiated a better ownership relationship in that we will own the photography, have joint ownership with the company as opposed to just the rights to use it for the 3 years and then gone. So would recommend approval.
Any questions? for
Yeah, and
Dennis?
how's this work with our website? Is it on our, is it to go into the website, you can go to, you select a street, zoom into the street, is it similar to like, look, to me, it's like Google Earth.
Kinda,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's similar to Google Earth, only it will be a lot higher resolution, in a lot further, more detail. And for staff, there will be a lot of tools that we will be able to use on that, as far as measuring the height of buildings, the areas of buildings,
ask
and
that too,
and
if
some
you
of
can
that,
measure.
so.
You can pull, you'll be able to pull dimensions right off of it.
What?
You'll be able to get dimensions right off of this.
Right, and the company allows all employees and elected officials to have access to the tools. General public can't have access to the tools, but the rest of us can.
Yeah, sure. Interesting. Okay,
3-inch? 3-inch.
So
oh,
it's
yeah, go ahead.
It's payment over 3 years.
Yes.
When's, I mean, how long before implementation?
We need to let them know now. They're planning to fly it this spring when the snow's out, and try to get it flown after the snow's off the ground and before the vegetation comes.
Okay.
This company has 150 of these planes. They're all the same. $25,000 plane and a $250,000 camera system in it.
So my ultimate question in the end is anticipated usability on it for just a common citizen. Are we talking a year out?
They deliver 60 to 90 days after flight.
Okay, so before the end of 2016, it could be a
should have
usable tool.
Correct.
And we aren't really paying for all of it till 2018. Wow.
Right.
So.
Wayne County has had it. They came in and flew, they had some flights prior to it. They came in and flew the tornado area a week or so after the tornado. Yeah. They flew the Omaha area during the flood and then came back after the flood and flew it again.
Okay, any other questions at all, council? All right, if no further discussion, I'm going to ask that you vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Okay, very good. Appreciate it, everyone. Seeing nothing further on the agenda, we are adjourned.